Keith Thurman will get knocked out by Errol Spence Jr., says Tim Bradley. Spence fight news. Alright, y'all, so by now I'm pretty sure the whole world knows that the WBC has declared Keith One Time Thurman the mandatory for Errol Spence's next fight, and people are now starting to give their predictions. The celebrity boxing predictions are coming in by the droves. And former welterweight champion, Timothy Bradley voiced his opinion on the topic, saying that he believes Errol Spence, with his relentless aggression and power, will make easy work of Keith One Time Thurman. I just want to get my thoughts on that. Do I really believe that Errol Spence knocks out Keith Thurman? If you base it off of Keith Thurman's last fight, the Mario Barrios fight, you would have to say there's a high probability that Errol Spence would KO Keith Thurman. I didn't see anything special in the Mario Barrios fight. I didn't really see him look bad or look like his skill sets had started to degrade from lack of being in the ring for, 2.5, 3 years. I think it took for him to get back in the ring after the Manny Pacquiao beatdown. So I'm not basing it off the fact that he was out of the ring for 2 years. I'm basing it off the fact of how he actually looked versus Mario Barrios. He didn't look spectacular. He just looked like his skills were a lot better than Mario Barrios. And that could be because his skills have always been better than Mario Barrios. It could be that Mario Barrios moved up in weight, and that's the reason that Keith Thurman was able to take advantage, because Mario Barrios isn't used to carrying that much weight yet. He isn't used to moving around and hasn't figured out how to establish power at 147 yet. So it's a lot more factors going into the fact that I feel like Errol Spence would beat Keith Thurman. But the main factor would be that Keith Thurman just didn't look spectacular in the Mario Barrios fight, to where Errol Spence in his last fight versus Udanias Ugaz, man, he proved a lot of points, by busting Ugaz up. He broke his orbital bone, messed up a couple of his ribs, reestablished the fact that he can throw combinations and do it with bad intentions. He can still throw power with bad intentions. He has a relentless ferociousness about him. Like, once he starts, he just doesn't stop. He just keeps coming. And during that Mario Barrios fight, it was points where I saw Keith Thurman look confused. He didn't look like he was as relentless as Errol Spence Jr. There were points where Barrios could have took advantage of him. And you can't really do that in the Errol Spence fight. You got to be 100% on the ball. You got to be 100% relentless. You got to be moving forward and throwing punches the whole time to throw Errol Spence's game off. Either that or you have to utilize the whole ring. And we know Keith Thurman is not really a speed-style fighter. He might be more speedy than a lot of the welterweights out there, but he's not a speed-style fighter. He's more of a power fighter, a plotty fighter, trying to land some heavy shots to get you out of there. If you can be more relentless than Keith Thurman, if you can throw harder punches than Thurman, and if you can throw them early and often, then you can get Thurman out of there, which was proven by Manny Pacquiao. I don't think Errol Spence would have a problem putting Keith Thurman on his backside, especially if Errol could get in on the inside, break his body down a little bit, and then land something up top to the chin. We saw when Pacquiao went body head, he was able to floor Thurman. I don't see why Errol Spence wouldn't be able to do that, unless it was the speed and angles that threw Thurman off with Pacquiao and wasn't really the power that threw Thurman off with Pacquiao. If it was the speed angles, we all know that Errol Spence is not a speed fighter, so it would have to be more of the power shots for Errol Spence, where it was more of speed and angles for Manny Pacquiao. I definitely don't disagree with Tim Bradley. I actually 100% completely agree, and it's going to take a heck of a fight for Keith Thurman to actually pull that one off. I think it's crazy because why is Keith Thurman so adamant about fighting Errol Spence? Keith Thurman didn't want to fight Errol Spence when he was a champion. And why didn't Keith Thurman, if he wanted to be champion again, why didn't he go after Ugas? Ugas is a funny character, man, because there was a lot of opportunity for a lot of fighters out there in the welterweight division to go after Ugas, and nobody seemed to want to go after Ugas after the Pacquiao fight, except for Spence. You know, we can't just sit here and say that it was only Terence Crawford who didn't capitalize on these golden opportunities. What was stopping Keith Thurman from trying to capitalize on a Ugas fight and try to become the WBA champion? Why didn't he go after that? I don't think it was a situation of mandatory. I think if he would have challenged Ugas would have accepted the challenge. It could be that Errol Spence was the unified champion and that Ugas just wanted to go after those other belts, or vice versa, that Errol Spence just really needed that belt and jumped on it faster than anybody else. I don't think that that was the reason. I think Ugas poses a threat to a lot of these fighters, and that they didn't want to risk it versus Ugas. They would much rather watch someone else go in there and try to beat him or reveal the game plan to beating him, and then try to go behind them and get a victory off of Ugas, because he is a former champion. He did fight to try to unify all titles, so his name carries a little bit of weight to where it really didn't before he fought Pacquiao. But, you know, I think it's crazy that these guys, they're willing to go after Spence, but they weren't willing to go after the other champions. You know, at no point did Terence Crawford try to go after the other champions. He's only really been focused on Spence. At no point did Thurman try to go after the other champions when they were out there. I mean, he hasn't really even tried to challenge Terence Crawford, which is strange. I mean, he's talked about it before, but there's never really been an encounter between Keith Thurman and Terence Crawford, which is strange to me. Like, why does everybody want to go after Spence, but yet nobody seems to want to go after Crawford? I'm not saying that Crawford, because Crawford would say, well, it's my skill sets and my talent level that makes people avoid me. I don't think it is that. I do feel like it's a risk going after Crawford because he is talented, but I think it's more that people don't feel like they would sell the fight if they fought Crawford, and they wouldn't make any money off that Crawford fight. I'm not even sure if David Evanzian is getting $1 million for the Crawford fight. He probably will get somewhere close to that, or maybe a little over that, but I guess it's because that being a Crawford opponent isn't worth anything, to where being an Errol Spence opponent is worth a lot more, even if you are going to get knocked out. That's the Spence fight news for now. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. But you're more than likely to get a response on the tube. So holler at me over there. And we are not in.
I'm shorts, street shorts, kids, double B, sauce 1 Welcome to the Ville, killer cop capital. Cops kill a nigga quick, that's why we animals. They fucked around and let him out of his cage when they let a nigga out on stage. See, I'm finna act a fool, smack a fool, pack a tool, leave a nigga's head smoking like a pack of cools. Okay, niggas wanna play petty, burn his ass up, leave him looking like he played Freddy. Hooked up with cash is YV, them chicks with asses eye me, that classy guy keys. Knock a bitch out, pop a bitch mouth, pop up in a nigga house, knock up his spouse. Now the gun rack looking like measurements, 45, 38, 22, let them rip. So when I go for the triggers, y'all better go get y'all niggas.